Yes, what is the difference between a good and a service? Good is tangible and service is intangible. But can I say both are economic activities? Production of good and production of service, distribution of good and distribution of service, consumption of good and consumption of service. Both good and service are economic activities, isn't it? See, in this world, people will be producing either good or service. Can I say that? How can you earn money? How do you earn money in a country? Producing or distributing good or services. Can I say that? So now that is the difference between good and service, right? Next terminology we'll discuss is a very important concept in economic called demand, right? Now what do you mean by demand? What is the meaning of demand in economics? Yes, see, when we say, right, I am demanding something, what does that mean? Now, do you create demand for certain things? Certain goods and services, do you create demand? Yes or no? Yes, right. So, usually we talk about this. There is a high demand for something, there is low demand for something. Can I say that? Right. There is high demand for gold, there is high demand for UPSC coaching, or there is less demand for so and so. Now, demand is a very important aspect in economy. You know, it is a market force, right, which is very important. You know, importance of a good or service to a large extent is dependent on demand, right? Now, a good will become very important when there is more demand for it. Can I say that? A good will become less important when there is less demand for it. As simple as that, isn't it? Right. See, for example, now film actors, let us take the example of a film actor. When will the producer pay more money to a film actor? When there is more demand for that film actor. As simple as that, isn't it? Higher the demand, more importance for that product, good or service or a person or anything. Now, what do you mean by demand? See, demand is the quantity of a product, right, that a producer is willing to buy and is able to buy. These are very important. So, demand means the consumer should be willing to buy it and he or she should be able to buy it. Right. When we say demand, demand is the quantity of a good or of a service which a consumer is willing to buy and is able to buy. These are very important things. See, here willingness and ability are very important. See, I cannot create demand for a helicopter. Why? Exactly. See, I am willing to buy helicopter, but am I able to buy helicopter? Am I? No. So, I cannot demand a helicopter because my demand is meaningless because I am not able to buy it. So, there are two things. You know, a consumer should be willing to buy it and he should be able to buy it. Right. So, now these are very important things. See, now do you create demand for any men product, like let's say facial hair product? Do you create demand for that? No, because you are not willing to purchase it. It's not useful for you. Can I say that? See, I cannot create demand for women products, feminine products, because I might be able, but I don't have the willingness to buy it. Can I say that? Now, you will not be creating demand for CA courses, chartered accountant courses. Why? Because you are not willing to pay that, willing to buy it. Can I say that? So, whenever we say demand, there should be willingness of the consumer as well as ability of the consumers to purchase it at a given price at a given time. Can I say that? Yes. So now when we say demand, right, what determines demand in an economy or in a market? Demand for a good or a demand for a service is determined by what? See, demand for a good or a service is determined by many factors. This is very important. So factors that determine the demand, right? So can I say price of a product? Price determines the demand. Can I say that? Yes. See, everything else remaining constant, price and demand has a direct relationship. If the price increases, demand will decrease. See, everything else remaining constant, right? For example, you are going to eat a biryani, right? Same biryani, tomorrow price rises. Can I say demand for that biryani will reduce a little bit? Yes or no? Right. So price is a major factor that determines demand. If the price increases, demand will decrease. If price decreases, demand will increase. There are some exceptions. We will talk about that. This is the general rule, isn't it? Now, for example, let's say tomato, right? If the tomato price falls tomorrow, can I say people will buy more tomato? Yes or no? Demand will increase, right? So price is a major determinant of demand. What else? Number of buyers. Number of buyers. If there is more number of buyers, demand will what? Increase, right? More number of buyers, demand will increase. Less number of buyers, demand will decrease, isn't it? Yes. Prices of other goods. Yes, prices of other goods. If the price of the good, which is a competitive good, substitute good, if price of the substitute good increases, demand for this good will increase. If the price of substitute good decreases, demand for this good will decrease. We'll talk about that, right? Now, quality. Does quality matter? Yes. Good quality means increases the demand. Low quality means reduces the demand. See, when we are talking about each determinant or each factors, you have to consider other factors as constant. Get my point? Right. So, supply, yes. Supply, whether supply determines demand. If the supply is very less, demand will also be less. If supply is more, demand will be more, right? Taste of the people. Taste. Depending on the taste, people will demand goods and services. Can I say that? Right. Now, see, today there is more demand for electric vehicles. Why? The taste of people have changed, or iPhone. There is demand for iPhone. Isn't it? Why? Because of the taste of the people. Right. Now, expectations about future. That also creates demand. What do you mean by expectations of the future? Expectation of the future means, consumers are expecting that in the future this good or service will be more useful, right? For example, electric vehicles. Today, many people are buying electric vehicles. Can I say that? Why are they buying electric vehicles? Expectation of the future, that in future electric vehicles will be the best vehicles because petrol and diesel production will come down, right? So electric vehicles will be more useful. Is that expectation of future? Right. See, if you expect that in future something will not be used much, demand for that will reduce, right? Today, is there more demand for horses or less demand for horses? Less demand, because expectation of the future is, we will not use horses later on in the future. We will use cars. Can I say that? Right. Expectations of the future and income of the individuals or income of the people. Income or purchasing power of the people. So when the income increases, demand for goods and services increases. If income reduces, demand for goods and service will reduce. Right. So all of these factors put together creates demand. All of these factors, they are interplay, they have interlink with each other. Right? Whenever UPSC or in exam they ask a question about one individual factor, you have to assume that all other factors are same or all other factors have remain constant. Getting my point? See, if they ask a question, if the quality of a good increases, demand for that good will, if the quality of a good increases, demand for that good will increase. Right? See, assuming every other factor is remaining, remains the same or remains constant. Right? Now, this is basically about demand. Right? Now, there is something called law of demand in economics. Law of demand. Law of demand. Law of demand. Now, the concept of law of demand was given by economist Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall. Very, very important. Law of demand was given by Alfred Marshall in 1890. He wrote a book called Principles of Economics. Alfred Marshall wrote a book called Principles of Economics. In that book, he gives the law of demand. See, what does this law and demand talks about? Law of demand shows the relationship between demand of a product and the price of that product. Okay. And law of demand says every other factor remaining constant, right? Demand and price has inverse relationship, right? Inverse relationship. Inverse. What do you mean by inverse? Opposite. What's your name? Shruti, what do you plan to become? ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಸಿವಿಲ್ ಸರ್ವೆಂಟ್, IAS ಆಫೀಸರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ನೀವು ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿಸಲ್ಲ, IAS ಆಫೀಸರ್ ಹೆಂಗಾಗ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು? Right? Be confident, talk loud. It's okay to make mistakes. There's no problem in making mistakes. Don't hesitate to make mistakes. Okay? Yes. Inverse relationship means what? Inverse means opposite or ulta. Can I say ulta? So, law of demand says every other factor remaining unchanged, right? The demand of a product and the price of a product has inverse relationship. That means if the price increases, if the price of any product increases, demand will decrease. Ulta relationship. Can I say that? And if the price of a product reduces, demand will increase. Very, very important law. Every economist, every company, every private company takes law of demand into account, right? Because if every other factor remains unchanged, right? So same class, same teacher. If the price increases, can I say demand will reduce? And same teacher, same class. If the price is reduced, demand will increase. How much is the increase or decrease? That depends on different type of goods and services. There are some exceptions also. We will talk about exceptions in economic class, right? But law of demand holds good to almost everything in the world, right? It is the demand, right, to a great extent that determines, it is the price that to a great extent that determines the demand of a good or a service. When other things remain unchanged. Let's say there is a biryani hotel, right? So today the biryani is 80 rupees. But same quality biryani, same taste biryani, they will give for 50 rupees tomorrow. So price has reduced. Will the demand increase? Yes, demand will increase. Or same quality biryani, same taste biryani, from 80 rupees it becomes 150 rupees. That means price increases. Can I say demand will reduce? Yes, that is law of demand. Right. See, for law of demand to apply, you have to understand that other factors remain unchanged. Right. Now, that is called as law of demand. Right. Now, elasticity of demand. There is a concept called elasticity of demand. See, elasticity of demand, it shows the relationship between price change and the impact of the price change on demand. It shows the relationship between price change and the impact of that price change on demand. That means, see, elasticity of demand is a concept which shows if there is change in the price of a good, how much demand will increase or how much demand will reduce. Right? It shows the sensitivity of the demand for goods when the prices changes. Because see, when price changes, demand will increase or decrease. Yes. But increase or decrease will be different from different type of goods. Can I say that? Yes. So if price changes in some goods, right, demand might increase a lot. But in some goods, demand may not increase a lot. In some goods, even though price increases, demand may not reduce or reduce a little bit. Can I say that? This is called as elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand shows the impact of price rise or price change, not price rise, it shows the impact of price change on the demand of goods and services. That means when price changes, how much demand is changed? What is the percentage of change in the demand? That is elasticity of demand. See, in some goods and services, demand is very elastic. Elastic demand means if the price changes a little bit, the changes in demand will also be a lot. Right? If the price changes a little bit, demand also changes significantly. Right? For example, luxury goods. Right? In luxury goods, let's say iPhone, if the price increases too much, demand will reduce a lot also. Getting my point? Or the luxury watch, it is very elastic. Can I say that? For example, basmati rice. If basmati rice today it is 100 rupees kg, if it becomes 150 kgs, right, the demand is elastic. That means demand will come down. Right? So wherever the goods where the price rise leads to higher increase or higher decrease in demand, that is called as elastic demand. Right? Now, inelastic demand means here demand for goods and services does not change much even though prices changes. Right? Demand remains almost the same. Usually the price of essential goods are inelastic. That means in essential goods, right, even though if the price changes, demand will not fluctuate a lot because they are essential goods, they are basic goods. For example, if the price of the medicine increases, will the demand fall a lot? No. Why? Because it is essential good. Demand will still be there. Right? So, it is an inelastic demand. In some things like shoes, costly shoes, if the price increases of that costly shoes, demand will reduce because it is elastic. Right? Inelastic is, right, change in the prices does not change the demand much. Demand remains almost the same or there will be very less changes in the demand. Getting my point? Now, can you give me an example of inelastic demand? I gave the example of medicine. Food items like what? Other than that, I already said that, medicine, food items, yes, like basic rice. like basic rice, even though the price of rice increases, the demand may not reduce a lot, or salt, milk, exactly. So there it will change, the demand will change, but it will not be too much. Can I say that? People will still demand those products. Or something that is happening today, exactly, the prices of petrol. Right. Even today the prices of petrol and diesel has increased. Yes, why has it increased? The war, right? But still people are demanding diesel and petrol. Can I say that? Demand hasn't reduced too much because it is an essential thing. Or LPG rates have increased a lot, but still people are demanding LPG cylinders because it is essential. Yes, there is a little reduction in the demand, I agree, but the demand is, the fluctuation is demand is not high. Gold will come under what? Elastic demand or inelastic? Elastic. If the gold prices too much, gold prices increase too much, demand will come down. If the gold prices reduce a lot, demand for gold will increase. It is elastic. See, luxury goods, right? Non-essential goods, they are elastic, right? Whereas essential goods, essential services, they are mostly inelastic, right? So elasticity of demand shows the impact of price rise on the quantity of demand, or on demand, how much demand change has happened. Everybody understood this? This is elasticity of demand.